We've been very blessed. We've had the same crew for 13 years. And so everybody I work with was very close to Frank. And there's not a day that goes by that we don't think of him and talk about him, or what he would have done or what he would have enjoyed.
Many people know Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz as the longtime stars of a hit show who spent 15 years traveling across America, uncovering forgotten treasures and turning them into valuable finds. Their friendship and teamwork helped make the series a huge success, and fans loved watching them together. But behind the cameras, their relationship slowly began to fall apart. Over time, the bond that once seemed unbreakable faded away. So, what really happened between them? Why did their successful partnership come to an unexpected end? And what led to their heartbreaking split? Antique hunting journey. In 2004, Mike Wolfe picked up a camera and began filming himself and Frank Fritz as they traveled across America searching for old treasures hidden in barns and forgotten places. At that time, they had no television deal, no production company, and no audience waiting to watch them. They were simply two friends from Iowa who had spent most of their lives hunting for antiques. They believed every old item had a story worth telling, and they were determined to record those stories even before anyone believed people would want to watch. Mike later confirmed this journey in an Instagram post in November 2024. He looked back on the moment in 2004 when he first started filming their road trips. By then, they had made nearly 500 episodes of a show that changed the way many Americans viewed antiques. It also introduced millions of people to the unique world of pickers, people who travel quiet back roads, knock on strangers' doors, and find value in things that others ignore. The show was picked up by the History Channel in 2010, and it quickly became one of the biggest success stories in cable television. Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz became famous across the country. They did not look or act like typical TV stars, and they had no acting experience. What made people love them was that they were genuine. They were simply being themselves. Their knowledge and passion came from many years of searching for antiques, long before cameras followed them. Their excitement over old treasures was real and could never be copied. You could not pretend to have that kind of love for history and forgotten objects. Mike and Frank truly had it. The success of the show also inspired versions in other countries, including Irish pickers, Italian pickers, Australian pickers, and Canadian pickers. In social media posts from 2026, Mike proudly said these international shows allowed each country to tell its own history through the objects their pickers discovered. What started as two friends filming inside a van in Iowa had become a worldwide idea that celebrated local history through antiques. Mike's antique shop, Antique Archaeology, which he had opened in LeClaire, Iowa, years before television, became a popular place for fans to visit. He later opened a second store at Nashville's Marathon Motor Works. The business grew to include books, clothing, souvenirs, and public appearances. Mike and Frank became far more successful than they had ever imagined. They had become celebrities, but as their success grew, things slowly began to change. Little by little, the life and business Mike had worked so hard to build started slipping beyond his control, and it all began with one single incident. What really happened between Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz? Why did Frank leave the show? Let's find out. American pickers fall out. Things began to fall apart in 2020 when Frank left the show during the middle of season 20. At first, the official reason was his health. He had been living with Crohn's disease and had undergone major back surgery. Fans expected him to return after recovering, but he never did. In 2021, the network officially announced that Frank would not be coming back. Then, in 2022, he suffered a serious stroke that left him unable to fully speak or take care of himself. That was almost all most fans knew, but there was much more happening behind the scenes. Frank later revealed that he and Mike had grown apart. He said Mike never called or visited him after his back surgery, even though they had been friends since childhood and had worked together on one of cable television's biggest shows. Frank's words showed how deeply hurt he felt. Mike responded more carefully. He explained that Frank's ongoing health problems, especially the complications from Crohn's disease, were the main reason he could not return to the show. Mike did not deny their long friendship. Instead, he said he truly cared about Frank, while also making it clear that there were other reasons behind their professional split. In May 2023, more than a year after their disagreement became public, Mike and Frank reportedly met again during Memorial Day weekend and settled their differences. It seemed that the two lifelong friends had finally found peace with each other after everything they had been through. Sadly, Frank Fritz passed away on September 30th, 2024, at the age of 60. Mike Wolfe was by his side when he took his final breath. After Frank's death, Mike shared an emotional message on Instagram. He wrote, "I've known Frank for more than half my life, and what you've seen on TV has always been what I have seen. A dreamer who was just as sensitive as he was funny. The same off-camera as he was on, Frank had a way of reaching the hearts of so many by just being himself." His words sounded like those of a man mourning not only a friend, but also a friendship that had gone through years of pain. Even so, Mike chose to remember the good times instead of letting their disagreements define their entire relationship. After Frank's death, fans began wondering what would happen to American Pickers. The show they had built together over 20 seasons could never be the same again. It was not ending because of poor ratings or a decision by the network. It had changed because the man who had shared the journey beside Mike had first left the show in 2020 and was now gone forever. Then Danielle Colby made an announcement that left an already worried fan base completely stunned. What did she say? And why did it have such a big impact? Let's find out. Danielle Colby's birthday. Shocking announcement. On December 3rd, 2025, Danielle Colby celebrated her 50th birthday. She marked the day the same way she handles most moments in her life, with honesty and openness without trying to protect her public image. In a video, she shared that she had just learned American Pickers was over. She explained that she had reached a major turning point in her life and had already started planning her future. Her main focus was now the Ecdysiast Arts Museum in Davenport, Iowa, a project she had built from her own love of the history of burlesque. Soon after the video was posted, Mike Wolfe called her. The History Channel later explained that the show had not been canceled, but was only on a break. Danielle then shared another post, saying she had been speaking from a financial point of view. Since she was no longer receiving regular income from the show, it felt finished to her. Mike reminded her that, in his view, American Pickers was never truly over. The situation revealed something that had been growing for a long time. Danielle, Mike, and the History Channel all viewed the show's future differently. To the network, a break did not mean the end. To Danielle, the lack of work and income made it feel as though the show had already ended. Mike genuinely believed there would always be a way to continue the story, just as he always had throughout the show's history. The difference between Mike's optimism and Danielle's reality became clear for everyone to see. It was one of the biggest public signs that all was no longer well behind the scenes of American Pickers. But Danielle's comments revealed more than questions about the show's future. They also drew attention to the broken friendship between Mike and Frank, helping explain why their relationship slowly fell apart. In the early years, everything was much simpler. After each trip, Mike and Frank would return to the shop with their latest discoveries. Danielle would examine the items, organize them, decide what could be sold, and listen as they shared stories from the road. They worked closely together, and the atmosphere was relaxed and genuine. As the show became more popular, everything changed. The growing success meant more filming, longer schedules, and hundreds of days spent working each year. What had once been fun road trips slowly turned into a demanding television production. Everyone became exhausted, and the easygoing spirit of the early years began to disappear. Mike focused on growing the American Pickers brand. He took on new business projects and became more comfortable in the spotlight. Frank, however, wanted a quieter life. He preferred smaller picking trips and staying away from constant public attention. Danielle watched both of them change while trying to keep the peace as the show became a much bigger business. By the mid-2010s, the show was very different from what it had once been. Production costs increased, schedules became tighter, and every episode needed bigger discoveries, stronger stories, and more excitement. Picking no longer felt like an adventure. It often felt like hard work and pressure. Behind the cameras, problems also started growing. Conversations became more difficult, and the natural friendship that viewers loved was no longer the same. By 2017, the distance between Mike and Frank had become impossible to ignore. One of the biggest reasons for that growing distance was Frank's struggle with addiction. For several years before and after leaving the show, Frank battled substance dependency. His health problems made life even harder. He had lived with Crohn's disease for many years, causing constant pain and requiring ongoing medical treatment. After back surgery during the COVID-19 pandemic, he was prescribed opioid pain medication to help him recover. What began as treatment for physical pain slowly became dependence on the medication. At the same time, Frank was also struggling with alcohol addiction. He later told the U.S. Sun that he had entered treatment, publicly confirming his battle for the first time. By then, addiction had become the biggest challenge in his life. It affected nearly everything around him. At the same time, his lifelong friendship with Mike Wolfe was falling apart. The two men had known each other since they were young adults and had spent more than 10 years building American Pickers together. Their separation was not caused by one single event. Instead, it came from years of work pressure, personal disagreements, health struggles, and the isolation that often comes with addiction. To many fans, it simply looked like two friends arguing. But behind the scenes, the situation was much more painful. Frank was fighting a serious addiction, while the people closest to him struggled to find a way to help. As the relationships behind the show continued to weaken, the familiar places and faces that fans loved also began to change. So, what really happened to antique archaeology in Nashville? Why did Mike Wolfe close it after 15 years? Let's find out. Closure of Antique Archaeology Store. In April 2025, the Nashville Antique Archaeology Store closed after being open for almost 15 years at the Marathon Motorworks complex. Mike Wolfe said he decided to close it so he could spend more time with his family in LeClaire and focus on new creative projects. However, customer reviews during the store's final years painted a different picture. Many visitors who had traveled for hours, hoping to experience the place they had seen on television, were disappointed. Instead of finding many real antiques, they found a store filled with branded merchandise and gift shop items. Some small signs were priced as high as $1,500, while there were very few genuine antiques that had actually been picked. Over its 15 years of serving tourists and operating as a business, the store slowly moved away from what it was originally meant to represent. Mike Wolfe admitted that this change had happened. The original antique archaeology store in LeClaire, Iowa, is still open and remains the true heart of the brand. Fans who visit LeClaire can still walk through the shop where everything began, in the town where Mike Wolfe grew up, hunting for antiques long before American Pickers was ever on television. Unlike the Nashville store, the LeClaire location has stayed true to its roots and still offers the same authentic experience. The closing of the Nashville store showed the difference between what American Pickers was originally about and what years of commercial success had turned it into. The show became popular because of its real love for old treasures, expert knowledge, and deep respect for America's history. When gift shop products and commercial success started replacing that authenticity, both viewers and customers noticed. Closing the Nashville store was a sign that its journey had come to an end. Sadly, it was not the last painful event Mike Wolfe would face. However, the next tragedy nearly cost him his life, and the life of someone he deeply loves. So, why did American Pickers take its first break after 15 years? Was it deliberate? Let's find out. The crash that changed everything. Mike Wolfe and his partner, Letitia Klein, were involved in a serious car accident in September 2025 in Columbia, Tennessee. The other driver, 76-year-old Lerone Heads, was reportedly driving while intoxicated. Mike escaped with only minor injuries, but Letitia was badly hurt and had to be flown by helicopter to a hospital because her injuries were life-threatening. Letitia suffered a broken jaw in 3 places, broken ribs, a broken breastbone, a collapsed lung, and swelling around her spine. By December 2025, she said she had recovered to only about 40% of her former health. She was also dealing with partial facial paralysis, blurred vision, and trigeminal neuralgia, an extremely painful nerve condition that Danielle Colby has also experienced. Because of its severe and persistent pain, the condition is sometimes referred to as the most painful disease or the pain disease. Letitia's recovery continued throughout 2026, and Mike spent much of his time helping her heal while also dealing with many other challenges in his life. The accident also changed the conversation about the future of American Pickers. Questions about when filming could start again and how much Mike would be able to travel were no longer just about the show. His personal life had become the biggest priority. Before the accident, Mike had already spoken about slowing down. In an interview with People magazine in March 2025, he explained that the show was finally preparing to take its first major break after 15 years of non-stop production. He said, "We haven't done that in 15 years, so that's going to feel good." After the accident in September 2025, however, that break was no longer simply a chance to rest. It had become something he truly needed. Mike confirmed that after season 27, American Pickers would go on its first long production break since it premiered in 2010. That kind of non-stop schedule is unusual for reality television. Most shows take regular breaks between seasons, so the cast and crew can recover before filming again. But American Pickers had continued almost without stopping for 15 years, driven by both the network's demand for new episodes and Mike's own passion for staying on the road. So, what is Mike Wolfe doing now? Is he starting on a new page? Let's find out. Mike Wolfe's bold new chapter. In February 2026, the History Channel introduced a brand new series called History's Greatest Picks with Mike Wolfe. The show includes 8 episodes and marks a major change from the style that viewers had become used to on American Pickers. Instead of traveling across the country looking through old barns, garages, and forgotten buildings for hidden treasures, Mike now explores the fascinating stories behind some of history's most famous artifacts, relics, and valuable objects. The series takes a more documentary-style approach, allowing him to dig deeper into the history, meaning, and importance of these remarkable discoveries. It is a fresh direction that still reflects his lifelong love of finding and preserving pieces of the past. A History Channel representative told Parade magazine that Mike Wolfe's new series was a major reason American Pickers stopped filming new episodes, although a full season had already been completed for viewers. Mike said he is excited for this new chapter while continuing his lifelong passion for finding hidden treasures and preserving history. After 15 years with the same format, he felt ready to explore a fresh approach without giving up the work he loves. This change does not mean that American Pickers had simply run out of ideas. Instead, it shows how Mike himself has grown over the years. At 61 years old, he has spent more than 20 years traveling, collecting antiques, and telling the stories behind them. Rather than repeating the same format again and again, he wanted to explore history from a wider perspective. His new series lets him tell the same kind of stories he has always enjoyed, but in a way that feels fresh, exciting, and more creatively rewarding than American Pickers did during its later years. On the old series, he and his partner had to travel wherever the road led them, hoping to find interesting collections and enough material to fill each episode. Sometimes that meant long drives and uncertain results. With history's greatest picks, he is no longer limited by those road trips. Instead, he can focus on the most important historical objects wherever they are located. The goal is no longer just finding antiques hidden away in small towns, but exploring famous treasures that have shaped history and explaining why they matter. So, what do you think about Mike Wolfe's revelation? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.